What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Whiskey Jedi podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining me this evening. I am Jake Berlin. I'm your host, the lone host on this show, as I am here to dive into the world of the things that I love. If you've never heard or seen or been a part of the Whiskey Jedi show before, thank you so much for tuning in, popping by, commenting along, whatever the case may be. And I'm here to discuss not just Ahsoka, because look, Ahsoka's kind of taking over the world. It's the show to talk about right now, but also a lot of the other things that I'm currently talking about as well. Super excited to dive into some of the things that I've been watching. Also really excited to talk about the whiskey that I have on hand tonight, which is slowly becoming a favorite of mine. I was very lucky enough to get this bottle given to me by the distillery, by the company. It was a very unexpected care package. I'll talk about it here in a little bit. It's Nelson's Green Brier Sour Mash, which I did not expect to like, and I very much like. I already have a glass pouring for myself. I've been drinking for about a half hour already. I got home for dinner, which I'm sure I'll get into, and I just wanted to pour a glass before the show got started as I was kind of prepping. So cheers, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. If you are here, make sure you're showing yourself in the chat. Star Drew, thank you so much for being here, being part of it. Anybody else who may be watching, if you want to comment along, not just say hey, hi, but about the things that we're going to talk about. Ahsoka, Wheel of Time, a couple of other things. There's a lot. It's well known. I watch a lot of television, and it gives me a lot of opportunity to talk about television, and that's what I do here. I talk about movies, of course, which I'm sure I may get into one specific movie. But I like to talk about TV because I don't really get a chance to ever really talk about TV. So yeah, I'm excited. Again, thank you guys so much for joining me. Curtis, what's up, man? Appreciate it. Hope everyone's doing great out there. If you guys have a drink with you, let me know what you guys are drinking. Love to hear, whether it's a beer, whiskey, any other type of cocktail. Let me know. I got Thursday Night Football on right here as well. It's on mute, so you won't hear it, but I got it on there in the background. I got some fantasy guys going. Got to make sure I do that. Look, I'm going to get to the whiskey here in a little bit. If you've never been a part of this, the way I do it is I typically basically do like a 60-40 situation, maybe 75-25. 75% of the things that are the topic of the show tonight, it's, Ahsoka, the Wheel of Time, some of the things I've been watching. 25% the whiskey. I really like to highlight and talk about the whiskeys that I'm trying, the whiskeys that I'm constantly having. Talk about where they're from, how you can get them, the tastes, stuff like that. And so tonight, as I mentioned, it's right here on the side, right there. It's Green Brier Sour Mash, which a little backstory in this one. So months back, one of the videos is on the channel currently. I was graciously sent a care package from this company. They found the show, and they wanted to, put their stamp on it a little bit. And so they contacted me, and they sent me both their award-winning bourbon, which I did on the show a couple months back. It was ranked, I believe, number 9 or 10 on Whiskey Advocate last year. Then they also sent me the Sour Mash, as well as a couple of other pieces of merch. And I wish I had the notebook with me, but I actually used the notebook. I have one of them at work. A second one here is at home somewhere. And so I haven't had a chance to do the Sour Mash yet. And I want to do the Sour Mash. So here I am doing the Sour Mash. I'm going to get to it here in just a little bit. But I want to start the conversation off with, things that maybe you've been watching. I know most of you have probably been watching the same stuff that I've been watching so far. AKA Ahsoka is probably the leading contender. I don't want to spend too much time on it because it's being talked about everywhere. And on every possible stream, I feel like I talk about it quite a bit. And so, of course, I want to talk about maybe some questions that you guys may have. I just noticed my eyes are really red. I'm tired. Yeah, right there. You can see it. I'm tired, guys. It's been a long week. Today's my Friday, though, which is super exciting. I get to play golf tomorrow, which, I'm happy about. The other person in this house isn't happy about. It's okay. It's okay. I'll get through it. I'll make it through. But yeah, no. I look. I'll talk about Ahsoka as much as I want and as much as I can because I adore the show. I adore everything that is kind of happening with the show. I think it's been such a great positive conversation around the show as well regarding everything, whether it be the characters, the story points, whatever. But it is being talked about everywhere. So I don't want to take the whole show to do it, but if you guys have questions, I would love to answer them. If you guys want to talk about a specific thing, I'd love to answer them or talk about it. So let me know. Shoot it in the chat. And if you're watching something, I would love to hear from you guys on stuff that you may be watching. I'm going to get into the Wheel of Time, which I don't know if any of you have been watching, but I feel like it's a show that doesn't get talked about enough. I will also bring up a few things that are kind of on my radar right now to start next. I'm pretty much constantly watching a new show or a new season of something on the regular. Once I finish one, I start up back again. I don't wait for another season to drop, or I don't have like a select number of shows that I watch. I watch everything. I try to watch everything anyway, as much as I can. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know. Let me know what you guys are watching, paying attention to, that type of stuff. Let's see. Andy, what's up, man? Thank you for joining. Let's see. Star Drew, the Groot short is cute. Episode 2 and 5 are cute. So I have not watched the I Am Groot animation stuff on Disney yet. Or not animation, but I Am Groot stuff. I have not seen it. Maybe I need to add it to my list. I think maybe I forget it's there. And I'm kind of busy watching so much other things that I forget that it's available, right? But I've heard it's good. I mean, if it's getting a second season, it's got to be pretty decent, right? Those are cool ideas. Shorts for a character like Baby Groot is very smart. You can do that for a lot of other characters, I think. And I wish they would, but they don't, and that's okay. Maybe it's just a Groot thing, which if it is, awesome. Awesome. I'm all for it. Andy, I don't know where it's on over there, but I've been watching The Winter King, which is the new King Arthur show. Wait a second. Now I got to look this up. The Winter King is a British historical fiction television series based on Bernard Cornwell's The Warlord Chronicles. A former warrior, now turned monk, tells the story of how Arthur became the Lord of War despite the illegitimacy of his throne as he evolves from outcast to legendary warrior and leader. Let's see. It does say it's available on Roku, MGM Plus, Amazon Prime's premium subscription, which I don't know if I have the premium. Let me go ahead and look. Because if it's on Prime, you bet your ass I'm starting that. So let's find out. The Winter King. It sounds like a Game of Thrones title. I mean, it looks like I'm allowed to play it on. Oh, I'm allowed to see the first 2. Andy, how many episodes are there so far? The first 2 are available to play. Episode 3 is not. And 4, which it says watch on MGM Plus. Oh, yeah, it is Ian Castaker, who's from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Okay, so I'm probably going to be in just for that point alone. I really liked him as Fitz. And seeing him in a drama like this could be pretty cool. Yeah, so I can at least watch the first 2 on Amazon. And then it looks like I would have to switch over to something like MGM to finish it out. I mean, look, I'm currently watching The Wheel of Time, so it fits into that whole ancient vibe that I got going on, right? That just kind of fantasy world. I might have to start that this weekend, at least the first two, and then figure out where I go from there, right? Thank you for bringing that up, Andy. That's awesome. Again, I like Fitz a lot, so and it's good to see him pop up in other things. I know he did some things, did a few small things during and after Shield, but you haven't really seen him kind of like in the forefront on anything. I'm looking up. I want to see what else he's done. I'm trying to find it. Because I remember him doing a movie that he was in. What was it? Maybe not. Oh, yeah, he was an Overlord. That's what it was. Yeah, he was an Overlord. Which, if none of you have seen Overlord, please go watch Overlord. That's with Wyatt Russell. Who else is in Overlord, actually? It's Wyatt Russell, Jovan Adepo, and a few other faces you'd probably recognize. Not names, but faces for sure. Yeah, I forgot he was in that. Cool. I'm putting that on a list, Andy. Thank you. All right, just real quick, before we get too far along with the show, let's just talk a little bit of Ahsoka. A little bit. I mean, it is the thumbnail. It is right here in the corner. So let's just dive into it a little bit. I want to bring up Andy's comment to kind of start this off here. I think something that makes Ahsoka so good is that it's a show that I don't want to speculate anything about. I'm just happy to enjoy the ride. Honestly, I kind of feel the same way. Like, naturally, and I think more so because I do the podcasts and the review shows. Naturally, we kind of speculate as to what's to happen. But in my everyday life with like people that I talk about it with or just with myself, I don't really speculate. I don't think to myself, okay, I think this is where this is heading. Or, oh, that's what this means. I mean, you're right. And maybe that's because we're all Rebel watchers. And for us, it's such a satisfying. It's just so satisfying to have the show and to have these characters and this story being told the way it's being told. Like 5 years ago, we never, ever would have thought we'd be seeing a live action show with Hera, Sabine, Ezra, Chopper, let alone all of them together. It just wasn't a thing. Like it wasn't something we thought about of seeing those characters in live action. Like, of course, we hoped and dreamed. Maybe we speculated, right? But it just never felt like a real possibility. And I think now that we have this, you're right. Sorry. I think we're just sitting back enjoying everything that's currently happening. I mean, honestly, I can't remember a conversation off the top of my head that I've been speculating with someone rather than just kind of talking about the episode that we're watching, which I think is a huge plus. I think it's a huge plus. I think that plays to its strength a lot, and I agree with you. It very much is I'm just enjoying the living hell out of everything that I'm witnessing. Thrawn and a different galaxy and Purgil and Ahsoka turning into Ahsoka the White. And I mean, it's awesome. It's awesome. Characters like this, right? Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati. Andy, you put it. That was a great way to put it. I agree with you. I'm 100% with you. He follows it up with like during the episodes. It's fun to see what Dave is stealing from with like the Fates. But then after, I'm just happy. Agreed, man. Like speaking of the Fates, I haven't like digged into what it could mean or where they came from. I haven't had conversations about them with people. I think we're all just happy to have it. Plain and simple. We're all just happy to have it. I agree with you. It's a very, very good point. Yeah, I mean, look, I think what makes this show so good for me, and I've mentioned it a couple times, especially if you're a POV Patreon member, on our reactions, I've mentioned it a few times. I am so thankful that the show is a through line. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so thankful that the show is literally one giant story, point A to point B. Every episode matters. And it's not a bad thing. You know, shows like The Mandalorian can do it because it's about a bounty hunter, right? He's off adventuring, doing stuff. Of course, there's a larger story, but he's going to get caught up in stuff. And we've seen that. But Ahsoka doesn't need to get caught up in stuff. There's a specific reason why this story is being told. And of course, you can kind of argue the same thing with Rebels, but Rebels was an animation show. They were given 15 to 20 episodes. They could tell stories in between that allowed us to spend more time with the characters. You can't do that with this show. And so I was a little hesitant and nervous at the beginning, thinking to myself that, oh yeah, it's 8 episodes, but only 5 or 6 of them are going to be the actual main story. That hasn't been the case. And I think that's a very satisfying element to this show, is that every week you're watching, everything is connected, it matters, it plays to what previously aired, and it's connecting to what's coming next week. I'm very, very happy that that's the way the show is turning out. Also, it hasn't been talked about a lot. It was talked about early on, but not recently. We need to give a lot of credit to Rosario Dawson, Natasha Bordizzo, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. All of these actors and actresses that are bringing the animation characters to life. Of course, like I want to give Ray Stevenson credit. Like the dude is absolutely killing it. But I think a little bit more credit needs to be thrown the way to the people who are bringing the actual animated characters to life. That is very difficult to do. Sometimes when you see characters brought to life, you're like, I liked it, but it didn't feel like that character. So far, to me anyway, every character feels like that character. Ezra right now is kind of just waiting in the wings. We haven't seen enough of him. I, for one, am in the camp of really, really enjoying the small scenes we got from him last episode. I think I was just so happy at seeing everything unfold the way it did. But Rosario Dawson, Natasha Bordizzo, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, they have done an incredible job of bringing these characters to life. I love it. I really do. I really, really enjoy everything that they're doing. Not just their performances, but also the evolution their characters have taken since we've seen them in Rebels, which I think is a big deal. That's a big deal. Andy, I'm not fully sold in Hera, but everyone else I love. And you have every right to feel that way. I think we just haven't got enough of her, right? Like in the thick of it. She's kind of just been in conversations or been helping out here and there. We've only really seen one action scene from her. And it was great. Her flying the ship. It was awesome. But I think once we get a little bit more of her, I think you will be sold on her. I do. Curtis, yeah, it's going to be weird seeing grown-up Ezra compared to Rebels Ezra. I agree with you, man. We're going to have to keep in mind that, sure, there's going to be elements of that Ezra coming through, but he's a decade older. He's in his mid-20s now, right? He's not a teenager anymore. He's going to be very different from what we've seen in the show. There's going to be moments and things that we recognize. But for the most part, like, it's a very different type of character. Like, let's use Ahsoka for example real quick. Ahsoka from now to Rebels is very similar. Her outlook on life is very different because of the things that she has gone through, but the way that she holds herself is still, it's in the same vein. That's because she was already older. Once you kind of hit like a certain age, like, for lack of a better term, your maturity and your personality kind of stop growing, right? Like, that's who you are, that's who you become. Ezra, we lost him at a point where he was still very much getting that. His personality was growing, he was evolving, he was growing into his body. And we lost all that 10-year period of him becoming who he is. And so there's going to be things that are so vastly different from the character we saw in animation. And that is okay. And that is absolutely okay. And I am all for it. I'm excited to see it. But I'm also very excited to see the things that we are familiar with. Gordon, what's up, man? Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Yeah, Andy, I mean, even if he's 17, 18, like, that's still a lot of time to evolve and change. He's going to be a different character, but there's still going to be moments of seeing that kid again. I mean, we have to, right? It's Filoni. It's the first time we've seen him in 10 years. Well, in the timeline anyway. It's the first time we've seen him since 2018. Yeah, exactly. Your right point. And I think about how different I am to my 17-year-old self. 100%. I was different 5 years ago than I am now. I was 26 compared to 31. I was very different when I met Gabby. Like, it's natural. And so I'm interested to see the conversation regarding that in the community. But either way, I'm all for it. I mean, so far so good, right? Like, at this point, you kind of have to trust what Filoni and company are doing. And I also love seeing that clip be passed around of Hayden Christensen and Dave Filoni conversing about Anakin and how he should respond and how he should act and how he should hold himself in the moment that they were talking about. Now you translate that moment to Dave Filoni doing it with Rosario Dawson, or Dave Filoni doing that with Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Like, it's awesome to know that he's conversing and going back and forth with these actors on these characters, which I think is a really, really big part of why this is all working so well. Gordon, I hope we get to see Ezra training Jason. Yeah, I mean, look, it's very early, obviously, very early in when we could possibly see that, but I agree with you. I know a lot of people are like, ooh, I'd love to see Ahsoka do it. I don't want Ahsoka to do it. I want Ahsoka to stick with Sabine. And if Ezra is meant to train, and if Ezra is capable of training, and if Ezra is ready to train, then 100%, yeah. It's only right, that he was trained by his father. Now he returns the favor and trains Jason. If that's the path they're going to decide. Remember, Jason doesn't have to become a Jedi. Like, he's going to talk about it. He's a kid. His father was one. We know he has the Force, but he doesn't have to be one. And who knows where Ezra's going to go? Who knows what's going to happen with that character? We have to keep in mind he's been gone for 10 years. Do we really think he's just going to jump right back into it? I mean, he could. He very well could. But maybe not. But I agree with you. If Jason was to be trained, I would like to see him be trained by Ezra. It would be a cool little kind of like life circle moment. You know, your father trained me. Here are the same teachings I learned from him. It'd be a very cool bonding moment for the two of them, I think. And I think it would mean a lot to Hera as well. That, by the way, that moment when Hera gets to see Ezra again is going to be super emotional. Super, super emotional. Yeah, I'm excited. There's a lot of things to be excited about. There really is. There's a lot of things to be excited about. Star Drew, would it be weird if Ezra and Sabine married? Yeah, I think. I mean, it could turn into a romantic relationship for sure. You know, Sabine's been through hell over the last decade. we're all, as Andy mentioned earlier, we're all speculating that due to the events of The Mandalorian, that she lost her entire family, that she's the only one left. And I think that's why she was so hung up on finding Ezra, right? She was so hung up on finding this guy that meant so much to her for so long. And they got really close. They were brother sister, essentially. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Honestly, I'm okay either way. If it's done right, I'm okay. I don't need it. I don't need them to get married or be romantic. I don't need really any romance. I don't. Like I don't think we need to have that, because it's always been a very brother-sister relationship with those characters. And remember, going back to Rebels, Kanan and Hera were the mom and dad. Zeb, Sabine, Ezra, Chop, they were all the kids. They were a legit family that was strung together, some by choice, some by luck. And so if they stayed that way, I'm totally okay with that. It doesn't have to be romantic. Could it be? Sure. Absolutely. We've seen how much Ezra means to Sabine. I'm sure it definitely is reciprocated. But is it to a romance level? I don't know. We'll see. Gordon, you're definitely going to see a Ghost reunion for sure. I think whenever Zeb hears that Ezra is back, like, that's a given, right? I have a feeling that we're going to see some type of starfight in the last episode again, too. And I think Zeb will be there in his starfighter. But we'll see. Okay. If that's kind of everything on Ahsoka right now, I'm not against answering questions or talking about it. So if you guys have other thoughts, please leave them in the chat. I'll definitely get to them. I do want to talk about this whiskey for those who are interested. So Nelson's Green Brier handmade sour mash. You can see the bottle to this side of me. It's to my left. I guess it's to your left too, the way you guys are looking at me. But here's the actual bottle. Very straightforward bottle. Nothing crazy special about the making of it or anything. But as I mentioned up top, I was gifted the bottle by the company. Very lucky. They reached out to me, sent me a care package, and this is one of the two that they sent. The other that I did is on the channel. It's the bourbon, just their award-winning Bourbon Reserve is actually what it's called. And so it's there. It's out of Nashville, Tennessee, where most whiskeys are made in Tennessee. And so I just want to read the back of the bottle because it does give a lot of good history on the distillery, the company, kind of where it came from. So this is on the back of the bottle here. It says, when our great-great-great-grandfather, Charles Nelson, introduced Nelson's Greenbrier Tennessee whiskey to the public in 1860, he could have never imagined how popular his creation would become, or that his process would set the standard by which all future Tennessee whiskeys were judged. With our revival of Nelson's Greenbrier Tennessee whiskey, because it only got brought back very recently. It went away and it got brought back again. We painstakingly recreated the family recipe, the finest ingredients filtered through a mellowing bed of sugar, maple, charcoal, and aged in new char oak barrels. We believe it's time the 21st century got to know the original Tennessee whiskey, and we hope you all agree it was worth the wait. Yeah, it's definitely got a very oaky flavor, but I really, really enjoy it. Like I said earlier, I wasn't expecting to like it, but I really do like it. I really, really like the sour flavor of it. It has that smoky feel, which I always enjoy in my whiskey. A little sweeter too, like a little sour sweet, which is kind of shocking, unexpected for sure, but very good. Very, very good. Nelson's is slowly creeping up the ladder for me. Like I mentioned, the Bourbon Reserve was ranked, I believe, 10th on Whiskey Advocate. And I didn't know Dom, who has been on the channel before, who's done Apocalypse movies as well, one of my good buddies. He brought it up to me. I did a video. I did an unboxing of what they sent me, which is on the channel. You guys can check it out. And he texted me. He's like, dude, like, do you know what you were just sent? I had no idea. So shout out to Brier, Stephanie, who hooked me up at Nelson's. I really, really appreciate it. You're 2 for 2 so far. If you guys want to send me a third, you're more than welcome to. Gordon here with one final question before we move on to the Wheel of Time. I'll do some final touch-ups on the whiskey as well, but one final Ahsoka question here. Do you think the Purrgil that Grogu saw on Mando Season 3 are the same ones that Ahsoka and Huyang were currently in? I've seen the theory online. I've seen it online. No, I don't. I don't think they were the same. 2 reasons. One, I think Ahsoka takes place at a little bit of a different time than Mando Season 3. Could be wrong. And there could be facts out there already telling me that. I could be wrong, so you guys let me know. But also, we already know that the Purrgil are creatures that react to the Force, and the Force kind of reacts to them as well. Not just, through Force-sensitive beings like Ezra reaching out and feeling them, like Ahsoka reaching out and communicating with them. But we just learned this week that the Night Sisters were the first ever to tame and ride them. And we know that their magic, the Night Sisters' magic, is basically the Force in another form. I've seen the theory out there that people are saying the Night Sister magic is the Force of that galaxy. I don't know how much we're going to get into that. And honestly, at this point, I don't really care to have that answered because I don't think it needs to be answered. Either way, no, I don't think that Ahsoka was in those space whales. Or Purrgil, I should say. And funny enough, actually, we've been calling them space whales for 5 years, 5-6 years. Did you guys notice that they call them star whales just to make it different? Not space whales, because that's what the fans named them. But Dave Filoni's like, nah, I'm not going to go with what you guys call them. I'm just going to call them star whales, which I love. I think star whales makes a lot more sense. A lot more sense because they traveled through light speed. Makes totally more sense. Andy, just directionally, I don't think it makes sense. I agree that, and that's another big reason is they just weren't going in the same direction. The timing of it doesn't make sense. The setting of it doesn't make sense. And even if it was Ahsoka, like, okay, cool. It doesn't have any major implications on anything. Like, sure, Grogu sensed her, but I don't think it really matters. Is that mean of me to say? I think Grogu sensed the whales, the Purrgil. I think that's what he was. That's what he was, feeling, which made sense. Which totally makes sense. That's Force-sensitive beings. They're going to feel things in the Force, all living things, right? And the Purrgil have very large connection to it, so it would make sense for him to feel that. Gordon, this could be after Carson gets help from the Mandalorians with Navarro. I mean, yeah, dude, like there's arguments for it for sure. I don't think it's an answer we'll ever get even if it's the case. Like we're gonna go back in time just to, like, eventually when Mando season 4 comes around, we're gonna learn that, oh yeah, I sensed you in a Purrgil. The theory could very well be right. I just don't know if it needs to be answered. I don't think it needs to be answered. So, all right, let's go ahead and move on from Ahsoka. I want to talk about the Wheel of Time. And let me know in the chat if you have watched or are watching or are interested in watching, please. I know there's only 4 of you watching right now, but let me know. I would love to hear from you guys. So I stay up to date on the show. I watch it weekly. I actually think there's a new episode out right now. I don't think they come out on Fridays. I think they come out on Thursday nights. And if that's the case, I have not seen it. Let's see. No, there's not a new episode out right now. They come out on Fridays. And there's 8 episodes out already. Oh, wait. Hold on. Well, that's season 1. Where's season 2? Maybe there is a new episode already. There isn't 8 episodes out. There is a new episode out. Okay, so there is 6 episodes out, excuse me. And I have not seen episode 6 yet. I have only seen 1 through 5. The last one was called Domain. So I will probably watch episode 6 tonight or tomorrow, because I might, after this, go and watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, which I'm very much looking forward to watching. It's on Paramount Plus, if you're interested. But look, with the Wheel of Time season 2, I don't think this show gets much credit. I don't think it gets a lot of credit. And I don't think it's also as heavily out there as much as it should be. I think it's a very, very delicate, complex story. Andy says in the chat, I watched the first episode of season 2. I was so lost. I need to rewatch season 1. There's a lot going on, very similar to how Game of Thrones did it for so long. So, without spoiling anything, season 1 brought together a group of characters that were all from the same village, and they all had connection to the power in this show, The Wheel of Time. I believe they call it the One Power. They all had different connection to it in different forms. They all had some type of ability or power, if you want to say it that way. And the idea around the show is based on the Dragon Reborn, which you can kind of look at the Dragon Reborn as the Avatar. The Dragon Reborn, they've been waiting for the Dragon Reborn for a very long time. And the prophecy says the Dragon Reborn is now. And a character named Moraine, who is played by Rosamund Pike, who is seen as the main character of the show. She is a magic user, for lack of a better term. She has abilities. And she searches out the Dragon Reborn. And she searches out this group of kids. They're teenagers, early 20s, young kids. She believes one of the Dragon Reborn is in them. We learn at the end of the season 1 who the Dragon Reborn actually is. And at the end of season 1, they're splintered off. One character goes this way. One character left towards the end of season 1, kind of like back this way, but his story's still being told. And then there's 2 more splinters. So there's 4 splinters of these characters. And they're all in different spots. Like, they're nowhere real close to each other. They're going to come back together at some point. We just don't know when. I know that the show is based on books that are very well loved. Actually, Sean Sullivan, he kind of walked me through a lot of season 1, and he was a late watcher of season 2, but he's catching up, and we were actually texting a little earlier today. So I think at the end of season 2, maybe we'll do a season review. I would love to get him on to talk about it, because I believe he read the books. So Andy, I feel for you, because it was a little daunting to kind of recatch yourself back up. And I will say the recap at the beginning of the season didn't do a very good job of catching us back up. It didn't explain where people were. It very much focused on the Dragon Reborn and Moraine, the recap. It showed a little bit of the other characters, but not a lot. And so it did take an episode, maybe 2, maybe 3, to really understand where we were at in the world. And so if you are interested in this show, if you like fantasy element stuff, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, We were talking about King Arthur. It's totally for you. It's 100% for you because it has a fantasy element that is pretty interesting. The type of world that they live in with this one power and how this one power kind of operates through females because they're the only ones that are really able to use it and can choose to use it in the right ways. It's a very, very interesting world. If you're interested, I will say that you will benefit heavily from going right through season 1 to season 2. For those of us who had a break, it could be a little difficult to kind of catch yourself back up. I agree with that point for sure. But now being able to understand where I'm at, seeing where the characters are, and kind of seeing the end game currently, at least for the season, I'm really, really enjoying it. I really am. I think it has found its footing. It's not a gigantic budget show. Like, there's not huge amounts of action, and there's moments of it for sure. And there's some pretty interesting characters. There's some very interesting ideas that they kind of throw out at you with certain characters. But it really is kind of a character-to-character show. It's based... A lot of the story is focused on dialogue and understanding where characters are coming from, the decisions behind their motives, or the motives behind their decisions, I should say. And ultimately what those characters want, which is very much still left up in the air for a lot of them. Curtis asked how many books there are. Let's see. There's a lot of them. Let's see. There's 14 volumes in addition to a prequel novel. So 15 Wheel of Time books. Just Googling it, it says The Wheel of Time is a series of high fantasy novels by American author Robert Jordan, with Brandon Sanderson as a co-author for the final 3 novels. Originally planned as a 6-book series in its debut in 1990, The Wheel of Time came to span 14 volumes in addition to a prequel and 2 companion books. So it's 15, really. 15 books in this series, 14 without the prequel. So there's tons of story available for them to do. And I would love to see a lot of it play out, if I'm being truthful. I don't know if they'll ever go that far. Maybe 6 seasons is a number. 5, 6, somewhere around there. Could be a good number, because I don't know if you need to tell all of them. You can kind of bunch them together a little bit. But I really am enjoying what they're doing so far. You know, I think that the one thing I will say about the show is that sometimes it can be slower. Sometimes it takes its time a little too much. I appreciate that at times, because that means it's really understanding what it's trying to tell, and it's taking its time and letting the viewer understand what it's trying to tell. And it's making sure it's dotting its I's and crossing its T's, right? But there are times when you do want it to pick up the pace, and you want the story to kind of move itself forward a little bit, especially if there's 14 books. So that is the one criticism I think I have, is that I do kind of want it to move forward quicker. But if they're dead set on the story that they're telling, I'm all for it. Like, if it's working, it's working. And so far it's been working. I'm sure there's criticisms from the book fans, and I'm sure there's criticisms from people who watch it, but overall, I think the show has been very, very good. Honestly, it's right on par with the Rings of Power for me. I don't think it's any worse or any better. I think it's right there. It might be a tad bit better because it's more consistent than the Rings of Power. The Rings of Power was to me, the Rings of Power was extremely inconsistent. Like, we had a great episode, and then we didn't have such a good episode. And then it had a really good storyline, and then it didn't have a really good storyline. The one thing that I will say it does do better than the Rings of Power, because it's told in similar fashion, it tells the story of the different characters in different areas better than the Rings of Power does. It gives everyone a spotlight every episode, whereas the Rings of Power, I felt like a lot of the time, okay, this episode was focused on this character more than this character, or this character never got enough screen time compared to this character. And so I feel like the Wheel of Time does that a lot better of consistent storytelling with where all of the characters are, because they all are spread out. They're all spread out currently. There's a couple of them that are together because they're meant to be together. But for the most part, like I said, I think there's essentially 4 branches of where they are at in the world. So yeah, I'm interested in how this is going to end. I like where it's currently at, but like I said, I kind of want it to be amped up a little bit. I want the show to maybe not pick up the pace is the right word, but I do kind of want some action, because there is some cool stuff happening. Like I said, this power, this ability that these characters have, it's been showcased, but not showcased as much as it could be. And I like a lot of the characters. Like I don't think I despise any. I think there's maybe a couple of characters that I don't like as much, but for the most part, I think I'm enjoying it quite a bit. So if you're interested, the Wheel of Time currently has a season and a half available to watch. And like I mentioned, if you have not watched it, I think you would really benefit from watching season 1 through season 2 without the break. I think that would really help, going from the last episode of season 1 to the first episode of season 2. I would actually be quite jealous, because I think you would understand it a lot quicker than the most of us did catching back up with season 2. Let's see. Curtis, oh damn, this ain't no George R.R. Martin. And no, it's not no George R.R. Martin, that's for sure. Yeah, R.R. Martin is see you next Tuesday to his fans, unlike his other fantasy authors. Yeah. The Game of Thrones stuff is always super interesting, right? Like, how long has he been working on that? And the books are still yet to be finished, right? It's been 33 years since the Wheel of Time started, and there's already 17 books about that universe out there, which is more than one every 2 years. Let's see when the last Wheel of Time book was. What year was it? A Memory of Light serves as the final in this series, and this was published in 2013. It reached number 1 on several bestsellers lists. So in a span of 13 years, he wrote the 14 main story Wheel of Time books. That's wild. That's on average, that's more than not 14 years. Sorry, 24 years is what I meant. I apologize. 24 years. 23 years. Yeah, I mean, the dude pumped him out. He spent 24, 25 years of his life, probably longer, 30 years or 40 years of his life writing the Wheel of Time books, and they were pumped out. Yeah, so I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know how much confidence Prime Video has in it. Luckily, what is in its favor is Prime rarely cuts a show short. The show has to be pretty bad for them to cancel it. They don't pull Netflix moves where they cancel it after a season or something. They do their best to give the show a chance at telling its full story. I don't know if we're going to see the full story for the Wheel of Time, But I do think that we'll probably get a few seasons more of this, maybe 4, maybe 5. I don't know how long they want to go. Let me just Google it. Just a general Google here. Doesn't really say anything. It's already been renewed for season 3, which is a big plus. And according to this article, season 3 will actually jump over to tell book 4. So they'll skip book 3, or at least the majority of it, and tell the story of book 4, which is interesting. So that's a good sign. That's a good sign that it was already renewed before season 2 came out, which is a huge plus. That was Comic-Con of 2022. They said we're renewing it for season 3. That was well before season 2 came out. So it seems like Prime Video is pretty confident and happy with where it's at, which is a plus for us who watch it. And I'm going to keep watching it. I'm going to keep watching it until it gets like, if it ever gets awfully bad, then I'll stop. But I really do like, for the most part, what Prime Video does as far as television. I think they do an extremely good job with telling stories. They make some of the best TV content out there. They're behind Apple for sure. Apple is, I think, at this point still the best, but Prime Video is right up there. I think they make a lot of really good content. Andy, Raymond E. Feist's Rift War saga started in 1980 and spent 30 years making around 30 books. Holy Lord. That's a book a year. I mean, look, when you have a passion for a world and a universe and you create it on your own, of course, like, you're going to spend the time doing it. I mean, look at someone like George Lucas, right? George Lucas spent a very, very long time creating Star Wars and staying in that world. So, yeah, I mean, that's the case for all creators, I think, right? A lot of people want to just stay in there and watch their properties unfold and be told. Especially with nowadays where they can be adapted and told into TV shows or movies. Your book series that you came up with on a whim as a kid with drawings that eventually turned into a 30 novel series down the line gets picked up into movies and TV. I mean, that's a lifespan of your property being told. That's pretty cool. Like, that is very cool. I mean, look at someone like Tolkien and Lord of the Rings. We can talk about Wheel of Time, Star Wars, obviously, Stan Lee and Marvel. I mean, there's so many creators out there that have been given the chance to do things like that, and their stories just live on forever, which I think is so cool. So cool. And I hope the Wheel of Time stays on for a little bit. I do. I hope it stays up for a little bit. I hope we get to see more seasons of it. I'm glad we're at least getting a season 3 that gives me confidence. And I'm excited to see where it goes. So if you have not checked out the Wheel of Time, I highly recommend it. As I mentioned, you get the chance to binge it and catch up, which will very much play to a strength of the show. So if you're interested, I would do it. I would do it right now. Like, as soon as this is over. Gio, what's up, my man? Glad to have you aboard, my guy. Hope you're doing well. You're off in Seattle gallivanting the world. So congratulations again on the new job. What's up, Whiskey Jedi? Good to see you streaming on here. Appreciate it, my man. Prime Video working on that Creed spinoff, if I'm not mistaken. They are. They are. No word on any Creed spinoff recently. Mainly because I think the strikes, right? You can't really develop anything at this time. But Prime got their hands on essentially the Creed world. They want to do an animated show, I believe. They want to do this spin-off series. They want to do Drago stuff. They got some plans, and Michael B. Jordan seems to have his hand in it, which is cool because he obviously had a big part in developing Creed. But yeah, I'm a little nervous that it's going to be quite a while until we see anything from that, but I'm excited to see what happens. I'm excited to see where it goes and how it comes to be. I'm interested in Creed in TV format. TV format boxing could be pretty cool. I don't think we've ever seen that. So, again, playing to the strength of Prime Video, they do some really good decision making behind the television. I mean, one of my all-time favorite shows came from Prime Video, so I guess I'm just a little biased at this point. Curtis, quick search, season 1 budget was 80 million. Yeah, I mean, look, I believe it was 8 episodes that put it on an average of 10 million an episode for Wheel of Time. Usually, you'd say that's pretty absurd. Go do a quick Google search of how much the first season of The Rings of Power cost. Just saying. That will have your jaw on the floor. So, all right. Before we start to wrap up, I want to mention a few other things that I'm watching. And I will say at the moment, I highly recommend this app called Serialized. It is Letterboxd for TV. You don't have to track. You don't need to track every episode that you watch. I do because I'm kind of a nerd for it. But it's a great app to have that tells you when shows are coming and when new episodes drop. Like, for example, this is my notifications. 13 hours ago, it told me that Sex Education is officially out on Netflix. 14 hours ago, new episode of The Wheel of Time airs today. 14 hours ago, new episode of The Challenge. And then even this, yesterday it told me a new episode of Survivor airing next week, which is the season premiere. Just for the sake of following your favorite shows, it's a great app to have. It's really cool. If you are interested or have Letterboxd, it's the exact same format. It's changed a little bit because it needs to. But it's really cool. Because I'm kind of a nerd for it, I track all my television currently, and this isn't every single show I've ever watched because I haven't come across every single show I've ever watched, but the ones that I currently have tracked and I've like gone through and checkmarked that I've watched. Time spent watching TV. Here we go. 4,629 episodes, 4 months, 21 days, and 18 hours worth of television. I've watched 104 TV shows. Again, not every one. I have not checkmarked so far. I've watch listed 24, which are upcoming seasons and shows that I want to watch, which that tells me when they're coming. And then I've logged 415 shows/episodes. Again, it's pretty cool just to see what other people are watching. And like I mentioned, it tells you all the upcoming episodes. Like, for example, this top row, which you guys can barely see, this top row are all of the shows that I'm either currently watching now or have on my watch list, which to watch in the future. And it's all the upcoming episodes for all the shows that I have watch listed. It's pretty cool. Like, I don't think Letterboxd does that. Just saying. So yeah, if you're interested, check it out. It's called Serialized. I'll go and spell it out in the chat because it is spelled a little differently. They actually have social media too. It's spelled in that funky way, just like Letterboxd is. There's like a couple missing letters, but they have an app, and the gentleman that does it is a solo man. He does updates regularly, and so it's always being tweaked. It's less than a year old. I just found it a few months ago, and so go check it out if you're interested. But back to what I was saying, just quickly before we wrap it up, a couple of the shows that I am currently watching. So I mentioned Wheel of Time. I mentioned the Challenge USA, which is one of the competition reality shows I love. Physical, which is a Roseburn Apple show about the beginning of so the aerobics home video craze from the 80s. It's about that. And it stars Rose Byrne. And Zoe Deschanel, I believe, is in season 3, which I have not got there yet. I'm stupidly finishing Riverdale. I don't know why, but I am. I just got to see it through at this point. I've watched so much of it. Over the last month, I caught back up on Fear the Walking Dead. I actually prefer Fear the Walking Dead over The Walking Dead very much. And the final season's currently airing, and I got to wait to watch those once they're all out. Ahsoka, for you POV patrons, I'm Avatar's on there. And then Only Murders in the Building. Only Murders in the Building as well, which just dropped a new episode last night. And then a few others that are currently on my upcoming stuff. Sex Education, which is going to be binged hardcore soon. Hardcore. I mentioned Survivor, Loki, Invincible, which comes out November 2nd. That is on my watch list. And a show called Lawman Bass Reeves, which I'm super excited about. It's another Taylor Sheridan Paramount Plus show. And it stars David Oyelowo, which I'm really, really looking forward to. It's kind of like an old Western type show. Yeah, I'm hyped, man. There's a lot of good stuff. I have Invasion on here, which I have yet to finish or start, I should say. But again, it's on my watch list. Yeah, it's really cool. But yeah, those are all the shows that I'm kind of have on my radar. Solely, Sean Sullivan literally just texted me about Wheel of Time, and so I need to go watch that new episode. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up, guys. Look, I appreciate you all. Thank you guys so much for joining me, hanging out. I know there wasn't a lot of you tonight. Probably just a busy time, not enough promotion ahead of time. It's also not a hugely popular show at this time. I'm trying to get it back up and running. And I'm looking forward to doing that over the coming months. I'm really dedicated and committed to getting this show on a regular basis more and trying to find my groove. Really trying to find my groove on things that I can talk about. So for those that you do watch regularly, if you guys have things that you would love to see from me or things that you would love to see reviewed or something, let me know. Because I do want to find kind of my place for this show. So let me know. I'd appreciate it, really. And again, thank you guys for watching and coming in and hanging out and talking some TV with me. I love talking TV. Doesn't get talked about enough. I love talking TV. So for Andy, Gordon, Gio, Star Drew, Curtis, I appreciate you guys. Anybody else who was watching, appreciate you guys. Those of you watching back on the playback, if you have not, hit that subscribe button already. Like, share if you would like to. Check out the other stuff I'm on as well. A Certain Point of View on a weekly basis. We have a Patreon page, which is awesome. It's a lot of fun, a lot of cool things happening over there. And yeah, all my stuff's down below. Social media is Qui-Gon Jake everywhere. You guys can find me. So, it's right there, actually. My fancy little overlay. So, again, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend, guys. I'll be back on Monday on POV, and then hopefully in 2 weeks' time, you'll see me back on this channel. But for now, thank you. Have a great rest of your night. Have a great weekend, and may the Force be with you.